Yes, we are.
First President of the United States, George Washington, said, "Nothing good will ever be accomplished without prayer." He freely acknowledged the need for God in the affairs of men. So, with that in mind, let's pray. Father, we come to you in the mighty name of Jesus, the name at which every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. Lord God, we come with heavy hearts and concerned voices. How do we best contend for the liberties and privileges you've given us? So Lord, in this hour, in this time, help us to ask the right questions. Help us to look for the right answers. And help us to follow the right way. Pray in Jesus' name now. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Tim, my name is Michelle Stevens. I've lived in Blount County since I was 5. My family was in a car wreck in 1998. Our daughter was injured. 2 months old. Car seat didn't help her. We managed to, from that point on, I'll be honest, we made lifestyle
I'm
changes.
so sorry, I gotta get my charger, I
Yeah,
forgot.
all right, bro, you ain't hurt nothing. You pay my salary.
We made changes. We did what we had to do.
Sure.
My husband here, he worked for another 7 years after that. He went on disability after I begged him to because 8 years. I didn't want my daughter in a wheelchair and him in a wheelchair too.
Gotcha.
So, he went for disability. We caught the COVID. We lost Rebecca. After 23 years, we lost Rebecca. Today is her birthday. She would have been 25 years old today. What killed Rebecca? Was it the COVID? No. She survived the COVID just fine. It was the protocols in the hospital and in the walk-in clinic. When I went to the walk-in clinic, I told them that she had been exposed through her nurses, and I felt that she had had it. I asked them to check her for more than just the COVID, because I knew it was more than an upper respiratory lung thing. They wouldn't do it. 7 days later, we're at Blount Memorial Hospital because she's in complete renal failure where she had a UTI. She had Pseudomonas bacteria. It got into her bloodstream. She survived the COVID. While she was in the hospital, in the ICU, I could not go in and see her. I have never been separated from her like that. Never. I called in and she was breathing 100% over the machine. And they had the machine at 100% pressure, 100% oxygen. For 4 hours, they never did turn that down. They killed my daughter when they did that. They killed a lot of people by doing that. We need this to stop for everybody. It needs to stop. The vax don't work. Everybody knows that. I know 3 people right now that I've lost that were fully vaccinated.
Sure.
It don't work. Why is our government still pushing it?
I don't know. I wasn't vaccinated. So I might get it tomorrow, but I wasn't vaccinated.
Well,
Never had it.
it's already been proven that if you get vaccinated, you're not vaccinated. You can still get it. It does not help you any when you get it. You know, it's all been a farce. And that's what led us into everything that we're living with today.
We're having hearings on that, and that's not gonna bring your daughter back, it's not gonna bring you much comfort. But we are having hearings on that, and I'm calling Fauci and the rest of them out of the carpet until, again, I mean, this president and his minions, I mean, it's just, it is, you know, you talk about the swamp, I don't like calling it the swamp, it really is, I mean, infrastructure, and they got the investments to show it, and, you know, I mean, they're the ones when we're sending billions of dollars of missile defense systems overseas, using ours, depleting ours, knowing that by rule, we have to increase ours so that we're gonna have to buy more from a certain kind that's made only by one company, and they just happen to own Stockton. I mean, you think it's normal for somebody to make a 75% return on a stock investment? So, I mean, you follow the money. There's real evil in this world, and there's real evil in Washington. And until, I mean, that group that just left were the veterans. I'll bet you half of those fellas don't vote. Half of them. And all you gotta do, you get on the computer. You don't have to go to the courthouse and do it, but you can go to the courthouse. Until people wake up and realize, and you can say they're stealing the elections, but again, 20 million so-called evangelical Christians decided not to go to the polls this last time. And over 2 million sports gun owners, and you're supposed to be, those are the people, you know, they're gonna vote. They don't. And churches, and I can guarantee you the other side's voting. You know, the unions, the ACLU types, all these lawyer groups, they're writing a big check and they're voting. And our side is not doing it. They're not taking it from us, we are giving it to them. We've got schools, higher education is completely infiltrated by this line of thought, you know, they're gonna wear a mask to the end of time. And, you know, and they're gonna, and until we do that, until people don't wanna hear it, but that's what's gotta happen. Cause I'm on your side. I mean, I don't pull any punches. I don't care who I tick off up there. I never, you know.
I watched the election, and one thing that I did not understand about the election was the fact that I would watch Biden's numbers go up
I agree. I know.
and Trump's numbers go down.
Yeah.
That's not the way an election is ran.
Well, again, you gotta put so many points on the board they can't steal, and we're not putting enough points on the board. And we can sit there and that just gives the other side, they feed that mentality because what's the use of going? I hear
Well,
that
I mean,
more and more.
it's
What's the use
election
of my vote?
integrity, you know,
Doesn't
nobody
count,
trusts
but,
the
I mean,
machines anymore,
We
you
can't,
know.
I agree, I know that, and we can't even get people to show up for local school board races, and that's where the indoctrination's current. We're allowing these people to move in and run for school board. Look at the city of Knoxville. City of Knoxville, there will not be another Republican mayor elected. I mean, you've got people that work for Oak Ridge National Laboratory, University of Tennessee, Tennessee Valley, all these groups, and that's all they pump out. They just pump out this left-wing agenda, and we're just gonna, and it's a great political model. It works. I mean, I'm not knocking their model because we used to own that model, and we've turned it over to them because we got callous and we got careless, and we, you know, again, my Christian friends are all railing on Trump, and they need to read their Bibles and read about King David, who was a real dirtbag. I mean, he slept with Bathsheba. He had was married to his best general. He had his best general killed. And, you know, I mean, but he was a great military leader, and he was a great leader. He was a dirtbag in real life. But, you know, and I'm not saying that Trump's a dirtbag, but you know,
Well,
we're trying to send
yeah.
a prom queen when we need to send a pit bull.
Yeah,
And it's
no,
you know,
I agree with that, and.
give me a pit bull every time.
And,
I've had enough prom queens.
you know, and I am grateful for everything that Trump has done.
Well, and I'm not up here
Yeah.
beating the drum for Trump, because whoever gets in there, I could walk out here and I could, have 100%, I could find somebody probably more qualified than this current president we have, because he's just not cognizant mentally at all. I mean,
No,
I've
he's not.
had
He's
two
not.
conversations recently with him, and both of them, I understood the words he was saying, they just didn't connect. And you watch his mannerisms and everything. I remember when my daddy was dying down here at Ben Ashley, and I would talk to the older veterans. Some of them had you know, dementia, degenerative brain issues, and the motions were the same. The walking away from the direction they were supposed to go, the turning and just the hand gestures and things like that, and the conversations. And yet, about half of America's willing to vote for that guy again. Half the voting America Now, you know, these polls, I don't believe any polls. The only poll I trust is when they call me on election night and say you won.
Yeah.
So, but I'm telling you, until we unite and get behind a candidate and say top to bottom and throw the dirt bags out, top to bottom, from our school board, city council, mayors, county commissioners, all the way to the federal top government, until we do the state level, until we do that, man, they are just, man, we're on a grease pole and they're laughing at us.
Well, what can we do to encourage more people to wanna stand up against this?
Well,
Cause I know right now, a lot of people are scared, look at J6 prisoners.
I know all about that, yeah, I was the last person to leave the House floor on January 6th. I know, I can tell you, and I was never asked to testify. I called the Capitol Police twice on who was broadcasting in the tunnel, telling people where we were, and it was a member of the media, and I never could get, and I called them twice. I even had to get a friend of mine who was connected with a like-minded Capitol policeman, and I got to watch the footage, and I identified the lady who it was, and we found out who she was, and it was a member of the media. But nobody would let me know, you know, I was never called to testify on that January 6th committee, and that was it was produced by, they had a TV producer come in from, I think, CBS, and, you know, and produced the thing for television. And nobody watched it. I mean, literally, I was on TV, somehow they picked me on an interview one night on CBS, and I said, honestly, I mean, more people are watching the Cartoon Network reruns right now than are watching you clowns. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
We
so-
were watching the right side during that,
Do
Yes.
what?
right side broadcasting during that. And there's a dude scaled down that wall on a rope, all in black. When he hit the ground, he spun around and smiled at the camera and walked out like, I'm curious about what he did. So
I don't
they're telling
know.
him down the wall on the rope.
They shouldn't have been in the building. Nobody should, even our people should not have been in the building. They broke the law when they came across those barriers, regardless.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, you know, I mean, some guy in a horn hat is not, I'm not worried about him looking like a Viking. I'm not worried about him taking over our government.
What I
Well,
seen
the
was
thing
them
of it
push
is-
the guards out of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. But if we don't, it goes back to, we don't have somebody that votes. You gotta vote, and we gotta tell these people across the country. Y'all are on all these, I would call them obscure websites because they're not mainline, and that's good. And that's good, because you don't wanna let the other side really know what you're doing, cause they monitor everything we do. And I would suggest you would shame these people and say, are you registered to vote? Because it's public record, actually. You can go on the computer and find out who is and who isn't. And these preachers, I talked to the head of the Southern Baptist Convention and over an issue, and I remember he said, well, Tim, or his congressman, he said, that was right around Christmas and Thanksgiving. That is our busy time. I said, brother, you're not gonna be busy when they deadbolt your doors, because that's what they're after.
it is what it is.
It is. They wanna
It
control
is.
every aspect. If you wanna go to church or not go to church, if you wanna, you know, and this automated, these cars, I keep telling people this, these autonomous cars that are gonna drive themselves, you know, they gotta have a master switch. It's not county to county. It's gonna be like McGee Tyson out here where they have a satellite radar that goes all over the country. I mean, you're gonna have that kind of apparatus. And then with somebody can turn that switch on, somebody can turn that switch off.
Horse and buggy before I buy it.
That would be a different rate of 5G implementation.
Well,
I'm
I
guessing.
can break the short.
I don't know what it would be, I'm just telling you, but that's what they're after. I mean, that's what obviously they're after. The president today said, you know, what do you say, 85% of the vehicles are gonna be electric by, and he gave the time and said, the technology's not there, the batteries aren't there, and we gotta buy guess what, we gotta buy the rare earth minerals, which maybe aren't so rare earth that we can get in places like Minnesota, but they won't allow us to dig them because of the environmental rules, but they'll let them use slave labor in China and Central America, in China and in Asia, because China controls it, and they've compromised this White House.
Well, how are they gonna get tires for their electric cars if they're getting rid of petroleum?
They're not, ma'am, we're gonna still be buying it overseas.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be buying it from our enemies, that's the whole thing, and these are the people, this whole world thing, and they're gonna sit there don't worry, they're gonna be taken care of, they'll be in their limos, and you and I'll be out rubbing rocks together. And I mean, but if you don't vote, I'm going back to the voting thing, and, I mean, if I go on the computer right now, and And look, I guarantee you, you're gonna be surprised, a lot of people don't vote. They don't vote, and all you gotta do is, you can register over online now. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world.
My
Until-
question to that, though, would be very simply, sir, I remember something that I read that said that voting is only half the equation, making sure you got somebody who's counting the votes
Yes.
that is.
I agree with you. Well, and that's where if you've got enough votes, I mean, in Knox County, we have an election committee, it's controlled in Tennessee by Republicans, in your county, I mean, who has the majority.
Yeah.
And that's who counts the votes. So, you know, if you get enough people there, and we overturned it, it was Democrats used to control the Knox County, and it was the most inept thing I've ever seen. I remember when, on the Haney and Chad vote, I remember they closed, it was on Thursday, it was election night, and they closed the polls, they closed the election commission down until Monday. And if Knox County had been the deciding area, that could have been devastating. I mean, that could have been a real bad situation.
Well, that's what gets me, all them friends, and they don't ever get rid of it.
Well, let's put some people in charge and let's force them to do it.
Well, I think with them planning on, with them arresting Trump, that tells you that they're still afraid that if the voters do turn out, they don't have a way to steal it, right?
They're so afraid of Trump. They are so afraid of Trump, and they,
I think his polls bumped up as a
Yes.
result of
yeah,
this.
well, I tell you what numbers you ought to watch is not so much the dollars, it was $10 million, but where that money came from, about 3 or 4 million of that was,
Soros.
for Trump's money, I'm talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Unique money, which means it was new contributors. And that means that people that are not in the polling, that are not out there, they're gonna vote first time. You send somebody a check, you're gonna vote. And these were not like $1,000, $10,000 contributions, these were $5 and $10 contributions. So that tells you they've got that's why you're not Santos, who's got a Florida?
DeSantis.
DeSantis, that's why he is kinda, I mean, he's out, but he's not talking presidential, he's talking Florida still. So I think he's weighing his options really heavily.
So do you think precinct strategy and Dan Schultz are a good group to link into as far as getting people involved in the
Who?
community? Dan Schultz, precinct strategy out of Florida.
I
He
don't-
has everything per precinct where.
Okay, yeah, there's several of those, and ethically, I couldn't endorse anybody or anything. I don't know who that is, but they're all about the same. It's public record, and they break them down, and those are all and that's how I won. Cause guys like me don't get elected. I knocked on doors, and nobody ever done this. First time I ran, 1994, State House. 99 House races, man. I was the only person to beat an incumbent. A guy named Lynn Redmond went to the election commission, broke it down by street. I had streets in alphabetical order within each precinct. I had a little folder it was on paper that he printed. And I'd go alphabetical by the street, and then it was numerical order, and I knew the registered voters in that house. And I'd go to the door and say, "Hey, Miss Johnson," and she'd say, "Well, I want to say I'm Tim Birch, I'm running for State House," and she could, and I was, everybody wants to go, and they'll tell you to go, these knuckleheads who never get elected, or selling whatever. Oh, engage, no, don't engage on issues, because because they'll talk to you about an issue you don't have any control about, a zoning issue or something, or whatever. Where are you at on this or that, and you talk to them, look them in the eye, tell them what office you run for, give them the pamphlet, and leave. Because generally they're relieved that you're not there, one, to save their soul, and two, to sell them a vacuum cleaner or something, So, and saving souls is good business, but, it's good, but I think people are just relieved, and that's active door to door, and these guys will tell you, "Oh, I want you to get this information and ask them these questions," so and all they're doing is, these outfits will sell you a program, and then you ask the questions, and then you give them back, and all they're renting you, because you're just getting free data for them. And then when they run a statewide or a national, they've got this huge database, and it's a great program. It works. I mean, these guys make a fortune doing it, because they run all these local races. They don't really care if they win or lose, they just want to get that information. And they run a big statewide campaign for governor or U.S. senator, which we have two in each state, 2 U.S. senators, 1 governor. then they've got all the data from neighborhoods. They know that Mrs. Johnson is a fan of whatever, you know,
Yeah.
and not a fan of this. And they can target mailings, they can target Facebook ads and all that. It's that specific. So, you know, that's my 2 cents. You didn't need that, but I was just telling you, because that's on my heart, and it always ticks me off as people come in and take advantage of folks for those things. But yeah, those programs are all good, but you can go to the election commission and ask for
Well,
the
that's
list.
where they say to start at, and start in grassroots and get your, if everybody gets their district good, then you can go from there.
You can
Get
go
people
straight to
step
street,
up.
and that's how I do it, knocking on doors. And if you're not registered to vote, you know, people say, oh, I used to carry voter registration, and you gotta ask somebody registered to vote, they ain't gonna vote. Don't waste your time. I remember a guy, when I was first state senate campaign, which I ended up being in that senate seat, we won the race, but a guy registered, there's over 1,000 UT students. And I think at Stokely that year, he had 9 people vote. So you imagine that 9 people were probably already registered to vote.
Yeah.
And they were just there signing up because they thought it was a cool thing to do, and it didn't do anything, just a waste of time. So, you know, target where you're at, and we gotta get people involved. We gotta get them engaged, and that's the bottom line. Because the other side is they're engaged through their unions, they're engaged through their you know, their liberal groups, and, you know, Planned Parenthood, ACLU, all these groups, they have a political, they separate their dollars legally, but it's just, you know, cash, it's just fluid, it's just gonna flow into the cracks, and that's what it does.
What are some of the battles you're facing right now on the floor?
Just the truth, you know, this gun issue is gonna be big, again. They're gonna push the red flag laws, and the red flag wouldn't have stopped either one. The girl, from what I understand, lived in her house with her parents, and she allegedly bought, I don't know how many guns, but if she didn't have a job and she's spending that kind of money, parents should have been paying attention. And this boy, last boy, I mean, he had, and again, the mental health component is
Yes,
an issue.
yes.
And but we didn't have that issue in the 50s. And guns were, you could just walk, you didn't have a cooling off period, you walk into a hardware store.
Any mom
I mean, that's what allegedly Lee Harvey Oswald did. He just walked in and bought an Italian carbine. Oddly enough, it was the gun, it's called the gun that never won a war. It's probably one of the worst guns he did. That's why the whole thing to me is kind of crazy, but that's neither here nor there. But, yeah.
Well, the whole thing that gets me with that, to be honest, I don't see, when they did what they did up there on ours, that thing said it's okay to open up the door and let everybody walk in and just, you know, rudely disrupt, all about them, don't care about nobody else.
Unapologetic.
And then 2 of them gets kicked out and the 3rd one don't. And if you ask me, my opinion, she
All
ought to be
3.
right there with
Yep.
them.
All
They're
3
back.
should have.
They're all reinstated, so.
They're all reinstated,
Yes.
so I mean, that's neither here nor there, but I think, you know, it's horrible what happened to those folks who
But
were
it is.
killed. That's a terrible, terrible
Yeah, but
thing,
it
but
took a bullet to stop the perpetrator.
she did say in her, one thing that the police did say was that she was looking at somewhere else and she didn't go there because there was armed guard there, so.
Yes, yes.
And of course, you're talking about a private school, and so you don't have, you don't have the same rule, you can pass all the rules you want to, but you can't, you know, pass it for a private, especially a
Do you
church school.
think the red flag laws are gonna pass here in Tennessee?
I don't know, here's my problem with red flag laws, and basically red flag law just says if you have, somebody has a mental issue, that you can go to you can petition the court and say, if a family member say they got a mental issue, and that they shouldn't have guns, and that sounds great, except here's the scenario I worry about. Say you and your husband are fighting, and you're splitting up, and he pulls out, and you're at the house, and he wants everything. He goes to the judge and says, hey, she is not mentally well. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but anyway, she has guns in the house, and then you take the guns, they come in and take your guns, and then he comes in and kills you. That's what I fear in a red flag law. But I don't know how I don't know how you separate the HIPAA law from, you know, that's, you can't publicly acknowledge constitution is basically what HIP is. And I don't know how the people said, we need a national register of mentally ill people. And I don't know how you would do that. I don't know what that would look like constitutionally or legally otherwise. So, the only thing left is to ban the guns. And you've got, what, how many ARs, allegedly ARs, and the guns that she used, they kept calling them ARs, and I've seen pictures of them, and they weren't ARs, technically.
9mm, look like to me.
Yeah, but
On that frame, I mean.
For the record, AR stands for Armalite Rifle.
automatic rifle, yeah, not automatic rifle, and I've had educated people say, you gotta get the automatic rifles. And I said, dude, they're not automatic, they're semi-automatic, and you can't make people, and you can have a clip and and of course, they show the picture, and the vast majority, it's 90% of homicides, I believe, occur with when I read, I'm not sure what it is now, will occur with a pistol.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just don't know. And I heard a statistic last week, which I didn't know, you know, we had a ban on assault type weapons, which I'm not sure, the definition of that is questionable at best. And then the Justice Department said the shootings weren't down at all, when we did away with the assault weapons ban. I was told that last week. So I don't know what the answer is, I really don't. It's not an easy thing, and and it's very emotional, and it should be. But I think we're sick as a nation.
What I don't understand is why do people wanna control the guns instead of controlling the situations?
Mental
The
issues.
situation we have at school is that anybody can just walk in and shoot. You know, we have, as you have said before, we have all this money to send to Ukraine. You know, we have, you know, why don't we have the resources
Armed guards at schools.
to be able to protect our
Right,
children?
the bill he's got coming up now, right?
Well, the Democrats, and that's the other thing they won't put out in the press, the Democrats blocked that the last time. And, the president's press secretary said, we want the guns, we don't wanna put armed, but, you're not gonna take the guns off the streets.
You can't.
Chicago,
The illegals.
you know, that don't work, you know,
Kennesaw,
Chicago's.
Georgia though is a great.
Well, I mean, look at Oklahoma, Timothy McVeigh, 110 pounds of chemical fertilizer and diesel fuel. He killed over 100 people.
Or the pressure cookers at the, you know,
Yeah, and, the Boston.
I really do wish we could get our government to
Did the FBI do him like they did
concentrate.
Trump?
Do what?
Did the FBI do him like they did Trump? Must have.
Yeah.
Somebody made him mad.
who,
Timothy McVeigh.
No, I mean, he was just a nut.
Okay, and I
But that's an unfortunate deal, but I'm telling you, it's just, and people don't wanna hear that. And I met with Democrats. I met with, I guess, about a half dozen Democrats, 2 weeks ago.
We got that 3 minutes.
Okay, and I met with the Democrats to try to find some common ground, so I'm working on that, but I don't know what that looks like. Honestly, I do not, and you know, we met, but, you know, it wasn't out in public, and we could just sit there and talk and figure out what we could all live with, and so we're gonna keep talking. That's the only thing I can tell you. Yes, ma'am.
Can you provide a solution or whatever, why all these illegals are coming in and getting jobs, people that are coming from sanctuary cities, moving to Tennessee, all over, and then there's this $10 billion, I think, or I forget how many $1 billion for this Ford company going into Middle Tennessee.
Ma'am.
Can you provide jobs to Tennesseans who have been here at least 10 years? Not these new people coming in.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that constitutionally, man, American citizens.
Yeah,
You know, they can travel, that's the beauty of this.
They can
country.
travel.
They can travel anywhere they want, but I think you're gonna find a lot of those folks think a whole lot like we do. Right down in Lenore City and Loudon, that are very conservative, that moved from New York and, Chicago, some, Illinois, California, they call themselves refugees. And they are very conservative, and they've had it, and they've moved out, so. And what you need to look at too are the real facts. Beto O'Rourke, when he ran, first time he ran, what did he run for governor the first time, I think, or was it Senate? Anyway, first time he ran, it's like all these socialists have moved in here from all these places. turned out it was homegrown socialists, it's people that were educated in Texas, that grew up in Texas. And, again, higher learning institutions, you know, they don't, you ask them how, they talk about we're diverse, you ask them how many Republicans they got working in their sociology department. You want to ask them, that's the diversity, you know, their answer for diversity and, is completely, different than yours and mine. So, you know, we got our work cut out. We've been asleep at the switch for too long. The country needs to get fired up.
What about the stadium being built, and that the taxpayers, as we are taxpayers, paying for that instead of Randy Boyd sold that property before he made who knows how much on that? And why isn't he or UT paying for the construction of that instead of us taxpayers?
Now, why would UT pay for it?
I know, why would UT pay for anything? They're,
No, I mean, UT.
But they
it's
should.
Pro baseball.
right,
It's, no, they wouldn't pay for it. It's Randy Boyd has sunk a crazy amount of his own money into that thing. I don't know that it would ever be really profitable for him. I think now it's just a matter of something he'd like to do for this community. I don't, and you're always gonna see, that's a debate, you know, you can have about is, if we don't put any money in, then it won't happen, and I get it, cause I voted against the Oilers, the Houston Oilers, when they came to town, cause Wall Street Journal ran an article about, this is major pro teams, not baseball teams and center cities and things like that, it's a totally different deal. But, and it said basically, yeah, you're gonna sell a little more beer, you're gonna sell a little more gas, and some guy's gonna get a job for $5 an hour with selling foam fingers, you know, we're number one. And, you know, you'll get the national prestige, and, you know, you get a Super Bowl team or whatever. But, you know, only people making money off of pro sports teams, the big pros, not the minor league, are the owners,
right.
and they make a kill.
But they're charging us as
I know they
taxpayers.
are. I don't go to them.
I don't either.
I haven't watched the Super Bowl. I haven't watched. I can't tell you last time I watched the last time the Super Bowl. I started boycotting them years ago. Got on Craigslist and bought a Triumph. It's 1964 Triumph on it, and I drove out to the woods somewhere and bought that thing. So we threw in an Evan rebuilt motor. I remember.
Can we wrap this up with you giving us suggestions of what we could do to make our communities, our state, and our country better?
Yeah, I would get issues that unify you all, that you can agree on, and I would get that to drive like-minded people to the polls. I don't mean driving physically, but you might need to. But that's where it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen at the ballot box. And you're gonna put this out, and undeniably, someone will get a hold of this, the enemy will, and they'll take something out of context. And they'll massacre me with it. And I'll see it for weeks down the road. I mean, and you just gotta be ready to fight. And you gotta stand up for people like myself. I get trashed internationally, and rarely do I get a call from somebody, or somebody stands up or writes a letter to the editor or calls in the radio. I mean, this is across the country. Your school boards, your city council, when they do something right, you ought to tell them. Because, you know, it's not just because you think that's what they ought to do, and then you're not gonna say anything, because the other side sure as heck is, and they're blasting us right now. And they're using the social media, you know, the trolls, and some of them are local, and but a lot of them are people, they call them trolls, they're basically hired hands. I've seen the setups, they'll have, you know, 20 cell phones with different addresses and phone numbers, and they're just throwing comment after comment after comment on stories. You get on Yahoo and read the comment section, read that. I mean, that's what we're up against. These people are full-time coming after us, and they want this country.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's very
for
scary.
you
You're damn
all.
right, it's scary.
And-
I mean, we're gonna lose our country, man.
Yeah, but it's time, because you're right, and a lot of it's already halfway snatched out of here.
Oh, yeah, and it's tough to get it back.
Why do the people want to why are they cutting their own nose off to spite their face? You know what I'm saying?
Politicians stay in power. It's short term. It's a short term
What
game.
about
And
their
you know, it's
kids
like
and their families?
It's like I watch these union bosses, and we gotta go. These union bosses, I mean, they are doing things, there's no way that we will be able to keep the jobs here because they're asking for too much. Short term, they're gonna stay in power. And and their retirements are fully funded, they're gone.
So
But
you're
those
saying
workers are gonna be left out in the lurch because of the short-term gains that leaders, and that's the way politicians are. All they're looking for is the next election. When am I gonna be tenured? When am I gonna have my 401k fully funded? When am I gonna be vested? And I mean, everybody, that's the name of the game.
It's Dancing with the Black Widow, right?
Do what?
It's Dancing with the Black Widow.
Eventually that Black Widow's gonna
Because
bite you, man.
they kill their mates after they get
Yeah.
what they need.
Yep.
So, one last question. Is there any way to, or is there anything being done about these career politicians that have been in there 30, 40, 50 years?
Well, ma'am, nobody votes them out. That's
Uh,
what's gotta be done.
there
You can
needs
do
to be term
But
limits.
that's never gonna happen. And the term limits groups are just ripping you all off.
Yeah.
Oh, send me $25, I'm fine. You know how many times
Yeah.
I have a bill up with Ted Cruz on term limits. I'm one of the sponsors. I've never seen their lobbyist darken my door, and they're charging you all money.
Yeah.
And it's a great
Crazy.
racket. I mean,
Sure.
they're making money off of it, but it is just a racket, and they're not doing anything. And they just send y'all letters, and that Pavlov's dog, I don't say y'all, but I mean people in general.
Right.
And then they just, I've had people call me all the time, hey, should I give money to this group? I said, who? I said, heck, no. I said, put that money in the offering plate, or put it in your kid's college account or something.
Can I do one more real fast?
Real fast, yes, ma'am.
About all this with the documents and to me, it just looks like one big RICO case.
Which documents?
Biden.
Yeah.
With the documents and the payments coming from China
China,
and.
yeah,
and
but you
all
gotta
that.
find somebody to prosecute it. He is it's so sloppy. I talked to Jamie Comer the other day, and it's just so sloppy. He was so arrogant, and he's obviously not a very smart criminal. You know, going and doing this artwork, and people are paying $300,000 for his artwork, and that's bogus. All they're doing is paying for access
Yeah.
to the big
Yeah,
guy.
well, I mean,
And he
it's-
says that in the emails, 10% to the big guy.
Yeah,
He's
well-
over in China. We have a balloon that flies over this country, 1800s technology, and we're not allowed to shoot it down.
Because it might hurt.
Well, what do you do?
It didn't do anything, man. We could have knocked that thing down in Montana.
I know. Exactly.
It's just, yeah, I mean, the head of the CIA under Obama, and he was the chief of staff to Obama. His son's in Congress, from a Democrat. Anyway, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but he even said I would have dropped that thing in the Aleutian Islands, you know, and there's no excuse. There's no, other than we have been compromised by the communists.
And TikTok.
Do we have anybody up there fighting for us over this?
Well, I am. I mean, you got the Republican majority in the House sure is, but you're not gonna get a fair shake in the media. They're gonna say, oh, this is a witch hunt, you're violating the rules. That's what oversight's supposed to be doing. Oversight under the Democrats, they investigated the Washington Redskins or something, you know, the football team. That was what they did. That was the only meetings they had. I mean, you know, give me a freaking break. So let's, you know, give us a chance. You know, that's all you're gonna do. I mean, we blew it under Trump. We really did. We let Paul Ryan, we didn't do anything about Obamacare, we didn't do anything about the border. We just spent like crazy. And, you know, we screwed up. We had it all. And we did not close the deal.
We want to thank you for coming and visiting with
Remember, when
us.
this is out, you'll see me get trashed on national news. Oh, I was there.
Listen, this is way off subject. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene married to Matt Gaetz now? Or
Oh,
what-
Lord.
what-
Oh,